This is the World Class Pro Wrestling Podcast, the World Class Cast with Jerry the Boss as my co-host here. I am Hannibal, and we have none other than the World Class Pro Wrestling Champion, UFC Hall of Famer. He's done it all in MMA, and he's starting to do it all in pro wrestling. He's appeared for Impact, many other companies out there, none other than Stephan Bonnar.
That's right. The world-class title, all those years spent on the waist of a Von Erich, and now it's on the waist of a Bonnar, and it's going to stay there, damn it.
And if you don't like it, you can try to take it from him.
That's right. Bonnar's coming to Texas.
I mean, you've already been to Texas, right? Didn't you?
I'm not moving there.
Didn't you do it at one of those independent expos not too long ago?
Oh, yeah, I reckon. Yeah, there was no one there. I mean, it was like a great card. They had like a lot of big names on there, but we didn't, get a lot of asses in the seats. So.
Yeah, I heard that was actually pretty small anyways. I know that guy that runs it. He's a nice guy, but I heard it doesn't seat a lot of people.
Yeah, I took a nice choke slam on the edge of the ring. That didn't hurt. Jeez.
You took one?
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah. I know. I'm like, I never taken one of these, and like, of course, it wasn't in the center. And man, it's like, if I do that again, it's going to be in the center of the ring. Jeez.
You don't want to take anything near the corner or the side of the ring. That's the worst spot.
Yeah.
So
lesson learned.
Let's get this started. So what made you even get into wrestling? Like, you were a wrestling fan, right, growing up?
I mean, yeah, when I was a little kid, like, my dream was to become a pro wrestler, Like, it was the 80s.
So like, who did you look up to?
All they had. It was, I like the Road Warriors, guys that really look like they could mess some people up, like Ultimate Warrior press slamming guys. That's pretty realistic, The Bulldogs, powerhouses, even guys like Tony Atlas, just guys that look like they could beat some ass. I like those guys. Even the Iron Sheik, good heels. Yeah, good heels I like. Of course, how can you like, Stone Cold and, some of the Attitude Era guys? That was a little later, though. Growing up in the 80s, you wanted to be a good superhero. You wanted to be a Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, it was like it went from heroes in the 80s to anti-heroes in the 90s. It was really quite the shift. Did you actually watch WCW too, or were you more of a WWF guy?
Yeah, I mean, it was more, like I really was a hardcore fan, like as a little kid in the 80s. And then, like, I remember getting in the middle school in 90s. I went to a couple shows, not as much. And then, like, late 90s when the Attitude Era hit, I kind of rediscovered it a little. Some guys I worked with, like, turned me on to it again. It was like, those were the days of the WCW, WWE, like the Monday Night Wars and shit, and the ratings were through the roof. So it was like the craze. I worked at Roadway over the summers, to save up money and then go to Purdue. Used to follow the dead around, sell nitrous too. But the NWO, man, that made like a revival. Everyone, we were like, you'd see on the docks of Roadway, they're big docks where you load and unload semi-trailers, but it'd be like NWO drawn with chalk everywhere. Yeah.
Man, what's crazy is I actually didn't watch a lot of the Monday Night Wars. Whenever I was such a Hulk Hogan fan when I was a kid that whenever I couldn't watch it, man. Whenever he turned into a heel, even though at that point, I knew it was entertainment, whatever, my heart was so broken. I don't think I watched wrestling for a couple of years. That's when it's real. That's real connection right there. You know what I mean?
So yeah, actually, my dad kind of I catch him watching it, so I'd watch it with him. He likes Stone Cold, Finally, like someone sticking it to the man. It's kind of like what the country needed at the time.
In a sense, it's almost. I feel like we're almost at that point again. It's funny how things come full circle. And I think we're almost to the point again where wrestling fans are wanting somebody to stick it to the man. Like, what do you think
man.
wrestling's
I
at?
think so. I think ratings are really low, and like, I think it needs something like that. It needs some attitude again. It's like the fans are way too smart nowadays. We need like someone to pull a Brian Pillman type of stunt, you know? Like everyone's so well behaved and professional and not going to do anything to jeopardize their spot on the roster, and it's kind of a little dry, to be honest with you. You know, everyone's really good at saying their lines, you know, and the writers are really good at writing lines.
You actually said it so well. They're good at saying their lines. You said
it's a little forced, and I think the fans could tell that, you know, and like there's something to be said about like someone who pulls some like shit like Pillman that, or even CM Punk would do that sometimes. It would get the fans talking like, oh my God, do you believe he just did that? I can't believe he went off script a little and fucking told it how it was and just spoke from the heart. And nowadays, just no one's really got the balls to do that. So
it's definitely
someone's got to step up and give that middle finger, you know?
You know, I mean, in all of the shows that we've worked together, how much of our stuff is actually scripted?
See, that's the difference between, that's what makes someone a really good wrestler. And, you know, like anyone could go walk a match 20 times, you know, like say if you got to do a pay-per-view or something, you're going to rehearse the match 100 times. But the real wrestlers, one could show up anywhere in the world and just work with anyone and on the fly make a fucking great match. And like now working these smaller shows, you kind of learn that, you know. It's great when you get to go with someone that really knows what they're doing and knows how to put a good match together, and sometimes you don't, and just figuring that whole part of it, you know, knowing when to put your foot down and say like, look, like, you know, I got an idea that fucking I say I think it's gonna work, and pushing for it. Like everyone wants to get their shit in, but really the name of the game is like you got to make the people happy. Well, yep, got to give the fans what they want.
I think it's a missed connection oftentimes now with wrestling. I think that you know, people are so conscious of what moves they're going to do, they don't think about that connection that they have to develop with people. You know, one thing that I was really impressed with you at first, whenever you first came into world class, was your talking skills. Like I was blown away by that, you know, because you come from MMA background, which, you know, most MMA characters or fighters, I wouldn't even call them characters, but most of them do not have that kind of skill to talk like you did. And so I remember like, man, I think it was Kevin Sullivan at the time. We were talking and I was like, this guy is money. He was money in UFC. I said, but he's money in wrestling because he's way more than just a wrestler or a fighter. It's like he can talk, and he can talk really well. Like, did you go around like cutting promos in UFC too, or when you were a kid?
Yeah,
like,
that was what you'd look forward to. Like, you know, when the fight's coming up, a lot of times people would be like telling, you know, you hear from people, I'll visualize the match or the moves. And I always visualized like the promo I was going to cut after I won, you know? So that was always a big, and then also going to the pre-fight interview too. I you know, it was a chance to kind of crack a joke or say something funny or clever, or why not take advantage of that? You know? So that, like when you could cut a promo, like, you know, I did on Tito Live where you hijack live TV for a real fight, like, you know, transition and doing it in the wrestling isn't, you know, it's not a big, not really. It's actually a little easier because it's expected of you. You know, that I took some balls. Like if everyone gave me a bunch of shit, now it's like, here's the mic, go do your thing. So it's kind of part of the game now. No, so you don't got to hijack live TV. It's expected of you.
What do you think about Tito stepping down from his job with Huntington Beach? I don't know if it was town council or what it was, but
he's like,
a lot of heat there.
He was on the town council?
Yeah, he ran for city councilman and won, right? So he won a position in a race and people voted for him. And after a week, people got sick of taking pictures of him and not hugging him and expected him to do some work. And he was so offended and appalled that, like, do you know who I am? I'm Tito Ortiz. How dare you expect me to do any work? And, quit. So that was it. Once it came time to put some actual work in, dude's never had a job in his life. I mean, fighting's a job, but, it's not like you show up in an office and, 9 to 5. That's, when you're a fighter, it's kind of, you're encouraged to be selfish. It's all about you, my time, and I got to do my thing. So once you got to give that up and be somewhere and work for someone else, like, think about that. Like, if you've never done that before in your entire life and you're 45 years old, you really think you could start? Come on.
That's true. We actually, go ahead, Hannibal.
Oh, I was just going to say, just before you asked that question, also for Tito, he had a WWE tryout shortly before the pandemic started, and it must not have gone too well for him because they never signed him.
Because I'm going to tell you what happened. He went in there and practiced a little and probably slammed some people, and they're like, okay, let's take a bump now. No, my neck. I can't take any bumps. What? Like, here, we'll just give you a clothesline or something. No, neck, can't. Nope. Absolutely not. No bumps. I just give out all the moves. All right, that's how it's going to be. I'm Tito Ortiz. They were like, yeah, it's not going to work out. Sorry. Yeah, there again. I mean, like, I couldn't hack the WWE. I talked to the guy. What's his name? Canyon Seaman. And he kind of lost me at the part where he was like, no, ultimately we decide who your character is, and we own that. I was like, wow, fuck. I'm probably going to get fired, so I'll just save you guys the hassle. Smell you later, dude. Yeah. I can't. I mean, I don't know. It's like wrestling's supposed to be fun, If you ever go backstage at a WWE, no one's having fun, You think it'd be like the 80s where everyone's partying, having a good time. Even the 90s, like imagine like D'Lo Brown and all them back in the day were having a good time. The vibe there, they're not having too much fun, No one's enjoying themselves. What's wrong?
Tommy from the Bronx. He wants
Riddle. To know. Riddle looks like he's enjoying himself a little bit, but for the most part,
I think he's probably
kind of a miserable vibe. Yeah.
Tommy from the Bronx wanted to know, did you dump that Joshua, I don't know how to say his name, Fabia?
Yes.
He said, did you dump Joshua Fabia too, whoever that is?
Yeah, I mean, he was Diego's right-hand man, and Diego's my boy. So, him and Diego were together, and so I helped corner Diego for his fight. We were all together, and then they had a falling out, So me and Diego, we're still friends. So, but no, to be honest, I haven't talked to Josh since the breakup. So
we had another question from Mike. He wants to know: would you ever try bare knuckle boxing?
No, honestly, there's like even trained for the Tito fight, and there was like something gnawing deep in me that said like, you're only 40. Like I wasn't even 40 yet, like a little before that. But like, if you keep doing this, dude, you're gonna be a vegetable. You could I could feel the effects adding up. The MRI showed it, the damage to the brain that wasn't there 10 years prior. So it'd really be stupid of me to accelerate my wheelchair, put it that way. So no, fuck that. Yeah.
And you're making money with your brain now with your various business ventures.
I'm sleeping. I'm using it like it's working better. Like after I retired, man, it was not good. And, it's scary when you go do your annual exam and your MRI is all out of whack and you got something that shows up that's a red flag marker for CTE. It's like, You want to keep doing this? Like, it's your choice. That's the funny thing is, despite that, it's called the cavum septum pellucidum, right? They'll still let me fight. It just means um, the septum that divides your brains, if you keep getting hit, that widens over time. And when it goes wider than 10 millimeters, that's called what I have, cavum septum pellucidum. And it wasn't there 10 years ago, but it showed up. And it's a marker for CT. So, I figured the best thing to do would probably stop getting concussed on a regular basis.
Mark wants to know, as a veteran MMA fighter who's been with both UFC and Bellator, how much of pro wrestling would you say has been meshed into how MMA is presented?
UFC tried to keep it a little black and white. Dana did, he really did. But then guys came along that kind of forced it, like Connor and that, and now they'll do the big flashy entrances. You see like that Pereira dancing around, or you see different things. But overall, Dana would poo-poo that. I had some good ideas back in the day. He didn't go for that, but Bellator it was like, yeah, do what you want. It kind of it's your canvas. Like you're the artist, paint whatever kind of picture you want. So that was kind of cool. Bellator, you get a little more freedom with that. You get to be creative. I get to come out with stitches, wrapping, brick in your face. I doubt would have gotten away with that one. The UFC, just saying. This was pretty cool.
I've always been a fan.
I was actually joking when Skoker, it wasn't. I don't think it was but someone asked me what I wanted for my walkout song, and I told them that. Well, actually, it's going to be a live performance. I just seen the video, and it was the funniest thing I ever seen. This guy stitches and, the brick in your face with the AKs. So I sent him the link saying this guy's going to perform my walkout song, thinking, just waiting for the reaction, kind of. A lot of times I do things just to see the to get a rise out of people. And it's a way I keep myself entertained and I laugh. So I was just thinking I'd get a reaction from Coker like I would from Dana. But I get an email back saying, great.
No cheap laughs from you, buddy.
And I'm like, oh boy, I actually got to go about getting him now. So I actually had to get a hold of him and offer him some money and make it all happen. So yeah, and I did. I pulled it off thanks to my boy Scully. Yeah, got him on the phone. We did it.
So Charles wants to know, what's your thoughts on the fight game and pro wrestling currently? What do you think they are missing, and has it improved since you fought?
The fight game, it's just these guys they chew them up and spit them out a lot faster now. So these fights are every week, and they have these guys fighting a lot. So it seems like the careers are short. So they really got to do something to make themselves stand out. And it's hard. The UFC, they don't really let them. You got the uniforms, and you really don't have that choice. So the pro wrestling, what they're missing is someone going off script and pulling some shit and kind of, being a rebel and, kind of working the boys, if you will. That's what they need. Someone to shake things up a little bit. MMA, it's like I think the guys, are doing right overall, considering it's so strict. Like Diego in Abu Dhabi, he couldn't even wear a scarf. He's in Abu Dhabi, so to honor the people there, they wear those, I don't know, those little scarves. I can't remember the technical name for them. And they wouldn't even let him wear that, out to the ring for his walkout. It was ridiculous. It's his 33rd fight or 31st fight. Wow. So, I think a lot of people don't understand in MMA, especially the UFC, man. You can't do them. You can't do too much. You can't do much to stand out, So you got to do it in the ring and pull off a spectacular move. And then you see when that happens, guy pulls off a spectacular move like that one guy. Remember, he caught his kick and then he jumped, spinning back kick, knocked the guy out, and oh my God, I think that guy's already fought a few times since then. I know he lost once. I don't know. I don't remember his name, but like talented guys, instead of getting like that name recognition and that time in the spotlight, it's getting shorter and shorter with so many organizations and fights every week that like their time are just these little flashes or highlights of a moment, and it's kind of a shame, man. It's kind of a shame. But that's what it is. I mean, sport blew up. There's tons of fights now. It's hard to keep up, and there's great fights all the time. After me and Forrest fight, there wasn't a UFC for 3 months, and they replayed that fight a million times, So that shit doesn't happen anymore. So it's a shame. But
I think a lot of it is, like the name of the game is content now. And so they're trying so hard to feed content left and right. And then I think part of it too, if you keep everybody the status quo, people still watch your product, but you're not producing a bona fide superstar. If you're not producing a bona fide superstar, you can replace them with any Joe Blow walking down the street, and you don't have to pay them.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing too. After a while, the superstars, man, like it's a lot of money to shell out. So like after a while, like, it makes a lot more sense instead of paying this guy guaranteed $1 million to get some guy, young buck, to kick his ass for 20, 30 grand, right? Get him out of there. And, so you kind of see that, like, growing up in the game, I didn't see the matchmaking as obviously as I see it now. It's like I could look at them and just kind of see the intention, the matchmaking intention behind it. And yeah, it's not so like, the UFC has a motivation right now. Their motivation is to build up the globe. So if you're the best fighter in a certain part of the globe, like, say in a country that doesn't have many fighters, like, you're going to get easier fights because we want more pay-per-view. We want more sales in that area of the globe, So if, a country's got, like the U.S., a lot of big studs, so it's not, especially in the same region of the country, move to Iceland or something. Yeah. you have a better shot, seriously.
So what were your thoughts like whenever you got into the Ultimate Fighter? What were your thoughts getting into that? Like, did you think, hey, this is going to be the springboard to make this product mainstream? Because essentially that's what you did. No,
I thought the UFC was the coolest thing ever, and it was super awesome and successful. And I had no idea how much they were hurting and how much debt they were in, and this was a big Hail Mary. It's like, this show will probably be pretty cool, but like, I didn't know they were hurting. It was just like, ignorance is bliss, right? But I just went in there saying, these guys are I'll probably get my ass kicked, but I'll do my best, And I had no pressure on me that way. And I don't know, it's kind of a good attitude to have. It worked.
So you said you didn't have any pressure. What was the pressure like after the Ultimate Fighter? Because it had to be.
Then the fun. Yeah. See, it was like, that's how things go. It's like at the beginning, they're a lot of fun and you're doing it for fun and the money didn't matter. And, you're just happy to be there. And then it's like, you have to win and it's your only job. And, if you lose, you get half the money. So right there, and then too, a couple losses in a row, you lose your job. So pretty soon you're fighting to pay the bills and fight for your job, and all the fun's been taken out of it. And it's, you're trained through injuries and you can't pull out of fights. And it becomes a lot more stressful. And that's like exactly what I wanted to avoid with pro wrestling. It gave me a chance to come into something and say, okay, look at how the whole MMA career went, and I could see that. Like, I want to nip this in the butt before it gets to that point where it's not fun anymore, and it's a job. So luckily I'm old, so it's not like I'm 20 and I've got a big road ahead of me and like I could go in the WWE 10 years. So it's like at this point, man, I'm just happy doing it for fun, casually on the weekends here and there. Like I got a next level pro wrestling coming up the 24th in Sacramento, fighting for that title, Tony Vargas. So I'll have 2 belts. Watch out. And of course, the
Knock his
world
ass
class,
out.
October 3rd, we're making a comeback, the
Yeah.
comeback show in Wichita.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Absolutely. Sean, he wanted to know, do you have any good behind the scenes ribs or stories from the Ultimate Fighter?
Yeah, I mean, a good one too, before the fight with Forrest, I was, you go in the bathroom, you try to get all your excrement out of you. You don't want to have to go to the bathroom no. And it's pretty common too. So I'm actually got quite no one around. I'm in the I could say a little prayer, and just asking God, let me do my best. That's all I ask for. These people came here, they're giving me their Saturday night. Let me do my best and put on a good one. And in the middle of that thought, boom, 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 pounding on the door. Fighters got his shit. Fighters got his shit. Pound, 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 pound. G. Fighters got his shit. Fighters got. I'm like, fucking, really? And I open it. It's Diego. I'm like, a fighter shit, motherfucker. Well, I'm the main event. Well, I'm the main event too. He got into it, ruined the prayer, but
Got into it before the fight that changed the game.
yeah. Oh, but that's Diego, man. Like we on the show, like I had a lot of those kind of moments, So
Since you brought it up, John wants to know if you're still pissed at him for eating all the asparagus tips and leaving the stalks.
We hashed that out. I forgave him on the reunion show. He ordered me asparagus, and yeah, we really squashed that. And it's funny too, because I thought he was just playing dumb with me. He claimed he didn't know what asparagus was, but honestly, he was, a dumb kid from New Mexico. Honestly, didn't know what asparagus was, and that wasn't a lie. He wasn't playing dumb with me.
Yeah, I can see why you would think that, because I don't know who doesn't know what asparagus is. So I can see why you would think that. But I guess you never know.
Lions Den Live wants to know how your meeting with Dana White went after your fight with Forrest Griffin.
My meeting with Dana after the fight with Forrest, I don't know, I don't think we met. He was, back in the day, he was a lot more accessible, I just go into the UFC offices and talk to him, and, it was like a much tighter, smaller family, not putting on nearly as many shows. Now it's like, there's 10 different security guards. You never are even going to get close to his office nowadays, without an appointment or anything. So, yeah, before you used to just be able to call him up or show up at the office and shoot the shit with him. But, you blow up, you get a lot of money and a lot of people sucking your nuts, then, yeah, it kind of goes to your head. So, as much as fun as it would be to be in that position, I'm kind of glad I'm not, because I got a little taste of the money, people kissing my. I did a movie, I got the star in, and you're the star. Everyone kisses your ass, and wow, I don't care who you are. If you get that enough, 24/7 for year after year, you're gonna turn into an asshole. It was a couple weeks we shot that movie. I couldn't imagine if I got that for year after year. Holy shit!
Matt, God, which fight did you have your hardest training camp?
Oh my gosh, I don't know. They always seem so miserable, so hard, and like things you don't realize are the fans really don't realize. Like take a fight for example, like my fight with Igor Pokrayak, right? Won every round, looked like a relatively easy fight, couple 10-8 rounds, had total control. But training for that fight, the fight, first day of sparring, 3 months out, I kicked Cantwell right in the elbow, and my foot swelled up like a balloon, and I just sucked it up and kept training on it. 2 weeks later, I could tell it was infected. It gotten infected. The stuff's swollen. It's prone to infection. So went in and, to the doctor to get antibiotics. And they're like, let's just x-ray it to be safe. And, oh, my God, your foot's broken. Yep, and it's infected. So we'll give you antibiotics, we'll give you a shot, and your foot's broken. What do you want to do about it? I'm like, well, I made it through the last 2 weeks, which were absolutely miserable. I'd be in so much pain. I'd have to get the adrenaline going, then I can make it through the training. And by the time I drove home and tried to get out of the car, I couldn't walk again. But after 2 weeks of that, it was getting a little more, went from like 90% like excruciating pain to like 70. And I figured, well, I made it through the worst. So just kept training on a broken foot the other 10 weeks. And by the time of the fight, it was healed and feeling good. But that sucked, training on a broken foot the whole camp, And that's just like, every camp, there's some sort of thing or injury. Or the Tito fight, I had trouble even getting cleared. Like my heart, passing the EKG was really hard. And I had to train with a heart rate monitor on for a few days, like recording me 24/7 because they weren't going to let me fight. And it was just, So, I mean, it's, everything, so many times. Our perfect example, like you train like 2 months for a fight, your fight's in 1 more month. Like Matt Hamill, I was supposed to fight him. And, put in like 2 months of training. I'm like 4 weeks out and blow out my knee. Reconstructive surgery, a big Super Bowl of knee surgeries, like a couple ligaments blew, a couple tendons, meniscus joint capsule. So out a year. Well, I mean, it's the whole recovery is about a year. It's about like 6 months. You could just start doing stuff with it again. And I fought John Jones like 9-10 months after. I'm not even it wasn't even a full year. And I fought Jones. And I was weak, really weak for that fight, and it showed. But he's a stud. So, but you never heard about it afterwards. I didn't go around and my injuries, like Tito always did. I'm doing that now.
So who was the?
But that always felt when you did that, like the fans feel cheated. I don't know, no excuses. So
that's true. Who do you think is the toughest fighter you fought?
I honestly, like the 2 guys that I was in there with, probably the 3 that I was in there with that I really thought were special. Well, let's start one at a time. First in 2003, when I was in there with Lyoto Machida, it was like, it ended up losing on a cut. But after that fight, I'm like, that motherfucker's good. Just you watch, And sure enough, he ended up knocking out Rich Franklin his next fight, and then going undefeated till he won the title. And I just knew it was something special, and it's no coincidence. Like his dad had been training him since birth to be a fighter. So, he was bred for it. And then John Jones, when I was in there with him, he was still before he was really, his skills were, but just physically, he had those gifts that I just was like, wow, this guy's a freak. And me, how the hell is he the same weight as me? This guy's huge. He's so hard to get close to. And what I do is wrestling's great. He's taking me down. But he's just going to be a tough riddle to solve, just physically. That's how I felt. With Anderson Silva, I felt like, oh my God, this guy's nothing. His punches aren't even that hard. I could eat these punches all night. Oh my God. I could probably beat this guy. Oh, fight's over. So that's how fighting Anderson. With the other 2, you knew they were really good and talented. Where Anderson, he didn't feel like he hit hard or nothing special in the fight. So true master.
So what do you think of the difference between training? I mean, it's the $1 million question. Which one's harder, pro wrestling, MMA in their own ways?
If I were young and did the pro wrestling, it's probably a good thing. I probably would have killed myself. But pro wrestling is something that you set your own limits and whatnot, and there's more control. MMA, anything could happen in a fight. You get bent and twist your leg, like if I have an injury in a pro wrestling match, hey, I have a torn pec. I can't do this or that or this move or that. Watch, be careful when you plant me. Oh, make sure you land me on. Like you work with each other, and protect each other. So in that terms, it's much simpler. But then if I'm doing these hard ass moves like low key or something like that, like that's way harder than the wrestling I do. You know, I'm at my age. I'm not going to be doing that super dangerous. I'll do a Macho Man elbow drop every now and once in a while, but that's about as crazy as I get. But I don't want to hurt myself. Whereas if I'm in my 20s, I don't care. I want to do backflips off the top rope. I'm going to do shooting stars. So I think that's the big difference. Is I'm in my 40s. I'm 44, and like I've had a lot of concussions. So I want to protect myself. I've had 10 surgeries. I don't want to get injured, so I'm not like looking to do the crazy things that are high risk. I'm looking to honestly, what I want to do is like just master the art of pro wrestling. Just go in there and put on a great match that grips the fans, makes really entertaining, really violent and realistic. But we both take care of each other. So we take the big bumps in the center of the ring. We're nice and safe, no injuries. We don't mutilate each other with glass or thumbtacks or any of that stupid stuff either. Like that to me, the beauty of pro wrestling is going in there and creating that illusion, like you're really violent, realistic, action-packed type match, but it's an illusion. You really don't mess each other up, And when you could do that, you're a true master. We could go in there anywhere in the world, any city, and go in there with anyone and put that match together that has those elements that draw those fans in. That's a thing of beauty. And it's like, it takes a while to learn. My second singles match I worked with Speedball Mike Bailey, and he formulated a great match. And I thank him for that. Like I use that now as a blueprint to kind of the story the matches kind of are supposed to tell overall, and when I try to mimic that, like I did with Logan Clark at Black Label Pro, we had a really great match. And if you see, it's a similar type of formula. So got his title shot coming up, Next Level Pro Wrestling, in a few weeks. And I want to have one of those I'm excited. It's the main event for the title. So I want to entertain, make it a good match, where sometimes like my last match for them, it was just a squash match. So, middle of the card, no big deal, no pressure. But now, good main event title match. I want to put on a good one.
Simon wants to know, who's your favorite wrestler of all time?
I mean, it just overall, I'm gonna go with not so much wrestling skills, but just psychological and psychology and attitude, and that's Pillman. He worked everyone, and people, he had everyone. He had the fans saying, "What the hell did that guy just do? Is that for real?" Like he had the boys, the guys in the locker room saying, "Is this dude for?" No one knew, and you gotta love a guy like that, and that's what I think the game needs more than anything. A guy like that right now,
Well, there is Brian Pillman Jr. out there. Maybe there's a Stephan Bonnar versus Brian Pillman Jr.
Yeah.
in the future.
But I'm like, if I want to emulate someone, I think because wrestling is yourself, amped up a little, and it's that loose cannon, because American Psycho, because I'm, it's a little nutty, have those nutty fights, but yeah, amp that up a little in pro wrestling, and I think that's the same kind of vibe that the loose cannon was bringing. Now I just got to bring it to the locker room. So watch out, motherfuckers. Watch out.
Yes.
I know you're in the marijuana business. Someone was asking earlier what your thoughts are of fighters using weed and it being a banned substance. I know CBD is allowed, but I think THC isn't.
I thought they loosened up on that. I don't know. I think everyone should use. Honestly, it helps the brain. CBD and THC, they have a synergy together, and seriously, it helps the brain heal. There's very few things that reduce swelling in the brain instantly, and those compounds together do that. So why not take advantage of that? And if you were hitting the head on a regular basis for about 14 years straight, like me, you're gonna have some swelling in the brain. I mean, you're gonna need to get that out of there. So any way you can, and cannabinoids. Whew, there's a reason why they're legal now, and they're putting all this study in it, the UFC study in it. Why? Because there's very few things that help heal the brain, and cannabinoids are one. So take advantage of it. Check out hitiva.com. We got the largest video strain review library, and I write most of those. And I put my heart and soul into them. And it's like, we take the weed, we split up, we review it, and we ask everyone how they felt. And they're like really heartfelt, honest reviews. So check them out. And, in some states you could order for pickup or delivery, like in Nevada and Arizona. So, yeah, thanks for letting me plug it. Hitiva.com. And I was supposed to plug something for Granahan. Oh, yeah, Baroni versus Gotti 3. Baroni's going to get his ass kicked. I don't even know Gotti, but I'm rooting for you, John.
That's great. Matt wants to know, what's the best piece of memorabilia that you have on your wall?
No, my Tough One jerseys. Autographed. Look at that. The late, great Loden Sincade, baby. How can you get another one of these? He's gone. He's no longer with us. This thing's all autographed, too. That's a nice one. That was April 9th. I stole that the day from the Hard Rock, the day after I fought Forrest. Right off the elevators, I opened it up and stole that poster out of there. Yeah. So,
what's your opinion of Tank Abbott?
I'm happy he's alive, man. He almost died. He had a liver transplant, I believe, or something.
Liver and kidney, I believe.
For him to have pulled through and still be alive shows the kind of tenacity that guy has. Because 9 out of 10 of us, or 99 out of 100 of us, probably would have been goners. But he miraculously found a match, and and that's a miracle in and of itself. How many people die on the waiting list? So, God bless you, Tank. I'm glad you're still with us. He actually came in the locker room before the Tito fight to wish me luck. So, that was kind of cool. I was always a fan of his growing up.
That doesn't surprise me at all. He still wants to fight Tito, believe it or not.
Yeah, although I heard he used to abuse Tito back in the day when they trained together. But, I'd probably put my money on Tito now. I won't lie. I'd be rooting for Tank.
What about Don Fry really hates Tank, and they're both not in the best of shape these days. Who would you picking that one?
Oh, wow. See? Wow. Man. Like that. Talk about an even one. I think that's I'd say Fry. Oh, I don't know. I think that's dead even there. I was going to say, who's the favorite in that? Fucking maybe minus 105. I was going to say Fry, but then Tank. Man, yeah, that's a good matchup right there. Yeah. That's a fight I'd pay to see.
You see, Tank doesn't walk with a cane. He is slow, but Don Fry needs a cane.
Tank refuses to use one, huh?
I don't think Tank needs one. He's just a little slower than he used to be, but there's no love lost between Don Fry and Tank, because when I interviewed Don Fry and asked him about Tank, he lost it. So
is Tank skinny now?
Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
A skinny Tank. Imagine that. Yeah.
Yeah, he's doing very well. He lives in Arizona and has a really nice property there, and is married.
Good for him. That's what Paul Herrera said. He trained me for that Tito fight, and they were buddies. But he said Tank was actually really smart and good with his money, and didn't just piss it away, and saved it well, and invested it well, and said he's a smart guy. Did all right for himself. So hey, he could afford a new liver and kidney. Must be doing something right.
And his wife would get along well with you. She definitely enjoys the cannabis here and there, his wife. So I actually saw Tank
Tank's
maybe I shouldn't
wife?
say it, but I saw Tank use some, and he's quite funny after he's had some in him.
I bet, man. I'm just glad he's not drinking anymore, man. You hear those stories about him biting a guy's nose off the bar after he aces a fucking fifth. Like, whew, what a nut.
Yeah, he was crazy. Bro Dog wants to know if you think Tyrone Woodley is going to beat Jake Paul in their upcoming battle.
I mean, on first on paper, yeah, I did, but then like those Pauls are pretty big, man. The guy's like 6'1". So I mean, he hits pretty hard. So I didn't realize the dude was that big.
Is that the one that fought on the Tyson card? Is that this guy?
No, him and his brother are both like 6'1". His brother's, I think, a little heavier. One's like 190, the other's 200 pounds. So they're really close. But yeah, I mean, I don't think it's going to be so easy for Woodley. Especially too, you got a young guy coming up whose chin's fully intact, and guess a smaller, older guy, 42, right? You know, who's on a string of losses. I don't know, and it's a boxing match. Like, yeah, it's. I mean, at first I said, "Oh, Woodley's going to kill him," and then you know, I saw how big the dude was, and I saw what Floyd said afterwards. Like, that dude's big, you know, 45 years old, fighting a guy who's way bigger than me, and I'm like, well, yeah. Same point with Woodley, you know, dude's bigger than Woodley, and gonna have a age and reach advantage.
It's easy to discount them because they're YouTubers, but
yeah, dude's got a good punch, man.
Yeah, I wouldn't count him out of it. If it's the one that fought on the Tyson card, I was actually pretty impressed with him.
Yeah, I mean, the dude's young and hungry. They're in their prime. They're coming up. They're getting better. You know, that's the thing. Whereas, you know, when you're 42, you're not. So, yeah. And I like, you know, I didn't know. I hadn't been watching MMA in a while, so I didn't know Woodley was on such a rough slide. You know. And then I saw his last fight, and I hear him talking. He hasn't won a round in a long time, and you know, and it got me thinking, "Whoa, this Paul guy's maybe got a better shot than I thought."
Yeah, sounds like a recipe for disaster. I'm taking Jake Paul. Simon wants to know, how did you get the name the American Psycho?
Oh, the Ultimate Fighter. Yeah, yep. They called me Ivy League at first because you know. I didn't look like a fighter. And then after hearing my stories for a few days and then training with me, it was, yeah. Someone called me the American Psycho.
Ivy League to the American Psycho. That's quite like two opposite ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, yep. It came after a story of me. It was right before I went on the Ultimate Fighter. I was with like my girl and another couple at a bar in Chicago, Le Passage, like the nice fancy club and shit, and go into a bar and like to get around for everyone, and I like bump into someone, and I was like, hey, relax, there's enough for both of us, and he got all shitty with me, like, I ain't your buddy, motherfucker, and like, you know, and whoa, really? All right, you know, like he got all in my face, and like, you know, you can do that to me. I'm like, all right, fine, show me, what are you gonna do, man? What are you gonna, come on? And he went on and tried to grab my throat, like, so knee-jerk reaction, I choke him out and put him to sleep, you know? And then I'm like, set him underneath the bar, and I fucking ding him one in the eye, like, you know, so he learns to stop being an asshole. And then I look up, and the bartender's looking at me, like, coming at, like, pointing at me, and I'm like, oh, shit, I'm going to jail. And he's like, what do you need? And I'm like, oh, I'm good. You know, he turns around, and some chick saw the whole thing. I was like, keep an eye on my friend. He had too much to drink. Like, let's get the hell out of it. And we took off. I got out of there. But yeah, because we had to tell stories. We, you know, no TV or phone or internet or anything like that. So it was, yeah, that story. Someone called me the American Psycho, and it stuck. But it also had something to do with training for me for a few days. And, you know, like me fighting like I did in the forest fight and training. So it was like a combination of those things.
I think it was a good career move settling on the American Psycho instead of Ivy League, for sure. Careless Whisperer, he wants to know what's your thoughts on everything that's been going on with Diego Sanchez?
You know what? Like, I love the Diego, and I supported him when he was with Josh. I got it, like he was with Jackson for a long time. He wasn't learning anything new. He didn't feel like they were really looking out for him, dude. He was just going toe to toe, straight in the damage, getting tons of stitches. So he found someone that he felt like cared about him and got him paying attention to defense, not getting hit as much, changing his style a little bit, and then also cleaning his life up. I don't know if you know, Diego, was drinking a lot and, wasn't living too clean. And, Josh got him sober, honestly. And, as much as people say how, like, awful Josh was for him, like, he did help him get his life cleaned up, and he kind of taught how Diego to take care of himself. Like, Diego, honestly, over the last 2 years of being with Josh, he became more responsible, more considerate, more mature. Like, Josh did fucking teach him how to take care of himself. And Josh is abrasive, could be a total asshole. I agree. But, if we go look on the bright side, this whole thing, he helped teach Diego how to be a better person, how to take care of himself better, how to be a better friend, how to be more responsible. But he also fucked his career up and, caused him a lot of falling out and problems. So I'm just saying it wasn't all bad, and it wasn't like Diego was crazy. He found he was learning something, and, I know that feeling where you feel like you're stale and you're not learning something, and finally you are. You're getting something new. You like it. So, I got it.
Bro Dog said that you're a legend of the sport. Do you see yourself as a legend?
Honestly, I try not to think about it too much, like you got to be like a Tito thinking around what a big legend I am. And, you don't want to be that guy.
Everybody, you're a very humble guy, very down to earth.
Well,
you're put on the spot. Are you a legend? I mean, I think so, but how do you?
All right. I mean, look back into the history books and boom, What's cool though is growing up in clairvoyance. When I was like 10 years old in 5th grade, I just had this obsession with being tough. Like I was like the toughest kid in my grade, and I wanted to be a pro wrestler, and everything was about being tough. And they're tough or a pussy, and it was like black or white. Those were the two worlds I lived in. And I'd say it like, when I grow up, you're going to look in the dictionary and like next to tough, and there'll be me, And then we're on the Ultimate Fighter, and we're doing one of those stupid challenges. And they have the production crew and all the producers' chairs sitting there. And on the back of the chair, it just says Tough 1 on the back of the producer chairs. And then I'm like, wait a second, the Ultimate Fighter, TUF, tough. Holy shit, imagine that. We're still filming that. I didn't even know I'd be in the finals. In the finals, and we have that fight, and then all of a sudden, it's like now when you look up Tough 1, it's like me and Forrest, and it's like, wow, that's pretty far out,
I mean,
really far out.
I mean, UFC, up to that point was not a mainstream product. You guys ushered that era in, and that era, I mean, it didn't just affect fighting, it affected pro wrestling at the same time. The rise in popularity of UFC definitely affected pro wrestling.
And I knew about it when I was 10 years old.
You plotted this out.
Think about it.
Did you get in a lot of
there's no coincidences. It's all like,
Did you get
in
like
a pre-programmed trip?
Did you get in like fights in school because you seem really friendly, or were you?
Yeah, but I was like, remember Kung Fu, the TV show where he'd go around from town to town, and he was just the nicest, humblest guy, but he'd get in a fight everywhere he went. That was me. I had a little scrawny friend who was a really late bloomer, and he had a sharp tongue on him, so he's a little smart-ass, clever kid, come up with some good ones, but he'd usually crack something smart off to someone, and he'd be too small to beat up, so the guys would want to beat me up. The tall, oafy, skinny-looking guy. Yeah. So yeah, a lot of those fights. And then too, my brother, like he beat me up for fun. That's how we played. He's 18 months older than me, so he always had that advantage. It took a while. Like, it wasn't until I was in college and I finally filled out that I finally beat his ass. So yeah, I was obsessed with being tough and fighting and learning martial arts, and I don't know why. I always say it's because I wanted to kick my older brother's asses. I know that's part of the reason, but like, I always just was drawn. I wanted to be a ninja more than anything. Pro wrestler too, but I wanted to be a ninja. Even when the UFC first came out, and they're holding up the signs, kickboxing versus jiu-jitsu. It was like, I want to know everything. Yeah.
So whenever you would get in these fights as a kid, did you ever do pro wrestling moves on them during the fight? Like, I mean, at some point you had to learn wrestling was entertainment, but before that, did you actually try any of those moves on people?
No, I started wrestling real, like, pee-wee wrestling, double legs and all that, like, probably when I was 10 years old. So when I get in fights, I was always able to out-wrestle the kids, because I had to go a couple towns over in Illinois to wrestle as a pee-wee, so no one else knew how to wrestle, so I could usually take it. But it wasn't until my middle school days where I joined the Taekwondo Hapkido school that I learned how to kick and punch a little bit too, and then my fights got a lot more entertaining.
Israel wants to know, how did you feel when Chuck Liddell lost to Tito?
Like, I didn't want to see Chuck even get in there, man. He looked great for his age, but for, like, he had no reason. 52 years old, right? I mean, yeah, it broke my heart, honestly. It broke my heart because he beat him easily in his prime, and now, a couple times, and now he's in his 50s and not the same guy, and he loses, and yeah, of course I didn't like to see that, but whatever.
He also wants to know, are you close with Forrest Griffin today?
Yeah. I mean, we cross paths on a regular basis. He just hit me up a few days ago, actually. So we had to do so much together after The Ultimate Fighter. For literally, like, the next 2 years, we went around doing PR together that, like, if I don't see him for a few months, I don't miss him. It's no big deal. But I we got love for him. I like him. We've always gotten along.
You're linked together in history forever. You're linked forever.
Yeah.
Jerry knows Jake Hagar, and I don't know how familiar you are with him, Stephan. He was Jack Swagger in WWE.
Yeah.
He's trying to fight Fedor. He's trying to campaign to fight Fedor in Bellator. What are your thoughts on him as a fighter, and if you think that fight's going to happen or not?
Yeah, why not, man? Like, get a big name that's on his way out. Like, that's good. Good for him to go and campaign to get a big name like that. That's what you want. You want a big name that's past his prime. And I mean, if it's not Fedor, I can't think off the top of my head any other big name heavyweights there. But like, that's the good plan. Go after big names like that. So go get him, boy. And why not? Like, if Fedor, is he retired? Is he still under contract with them? Like, what else do they got in mind for Fedor? So I don't see why they wouldn't make that happen.
And if he loses to Fedor, it's nothing because a lot of people expect him to win.
Yeah, and he's got a chance. Like, Fedor's not the same Fedor, like, his chin's not the same. Everyone knows that. He's still a bad dude, but, he's what, 44 now? I think he's older than me, right?
I have no clue.
Yeah,
I would love to see.
Good idea, Jake.
I think it would be great for Jake's career. I think it would be good publicity for Bellator too. I always thought whenever they signed him that it was a brilliant PR move because of his wrestling background and because of.
And that's what they want to do with Fedor too. Like, he's, he just super fights with him. So
he is 44, by the way. I just looked it up. Good brain you have there.
That's not one I hear too often. I'm hearing it more and more nowadays, though. This is funny. Oh, that reminds me. I got to do my MRI at the Lou Ruvo Clinic. I get it every year, right? I'm part of the fighter's brain study. And honestly, since 2015, since I've been going, my chart's like, it's like slowly going upward. Like my mental capacities have been improving over these past 6 years. There.
I think it's awesome that you've been able to retire and then get into pro wrestling, but also have your own businesses and do things outside of that, because I think it's a shame, whether it be wrestling, MMA, or whatever, the people that are trapped into that box that they've got themselves into and they can't get out of it, and they continue fighting when they shouldn't, health-wise, whether it be MMA, wrestling. It's sad to see that with people. So I think,
and then it's not fun. And the whole reason they got into it in the first place is because they love to do it.
I don't think people think about a lot of times. There's no, there's no like 401k in wrestling or MMA.
But that's what America does to you as a whole. It's like, follow your heart, do what your heart desires, and then you do it. Oh, I love medicine. I want to be a doctor. And then you're working 16-hour shifts, Dad, and you're miserable, and you die young of a heart attack because you're overstressed. Like, that's what we do. Find what you love to do, and then you get a career doing it, and you're doing it 68 hours a week, or like you're doing it way longer than you wanted to, and you're doing it because you have to, and it's the only way you know how to pay the bills. And pretty soon, the thing you did because it gave you that joy is bringing you nothing but misery. God bless America.
Someone wants to know your memories of the build-up for the Chael Sonnen fight. He's become even more popular, I guess, over the past few years.
Which fight?
He's not specific, but the one I remember, I think, was Bellator.
I know. Jeez. You got to give me a little more. I don't remember who he fought last. I remember him.
Oh, he means you.
Oh, I remember him losing to Tito.
Yeah,
he beat Vanderlei. Yeah. Yeah, he I don't know, he doesn't pull that out often, I remember after the Anderson fight, everyone expected him to do that to Bisping, and then he was really respectful. So Chael doesn't give you what you want, he does it when you least expect it. So I think it's hit or miss with him. Some guys he's really respectful with, some guys he isn't. I know with Tito he had a little fun with him, but then he lost. So but lost pretty decisively.
Yeah, Tito still holds a bit of a grudge over the trash talking there. When I talked to Tito, he still seemed pretty pissed about that.
I mean, that's your goal.
Chael?
Still fights.
Yeah, because he was going after Tito's wife then, who of course are not together anymore. But
him and Amber broke up?
No, the one with I think
Jenna?
the one before that, the porn star one.
Well, no, because when I fought Tito, they were broken up and had been.
Okay.
So, and then he was with Amber, the ex-UFC ring girl. And I don't know. I don't follow them. I just figured they were still together. But if they broke up, then,
Oh, I don't know what it was. All I know is when Tito was talking about Chael, he was saying that Chael went too personal and struck an area that he didn't feel he should have gone.
Yeah, because you got to talk trash by the rules. Yeah, you can't talk about someone's fans or family. That's against the rule. Like, come on, man. Jeez, what a baby.
I mean, that's the goal of selling any kind of entertainment. You blur these lines.
How dare you? Yeah.
Like reality. I mean, that's selling.
People are more babies in wrestling though these days than MMA. As far as the trash talking in wrestling, they should be
they're more sensitive. Yeah. It's unbelievable how sensitive like a lot of the wrestlers are. That's why, like the whole Pillman thing. It's just more and more appealing as the days go on, and you see just the whole world of the game is I don't know, it's asking for something. Someone to shake things up a little bit like that. Come on, MVP. You know, go
Hey, you're
whip
the
it out there.
champion of
Piss
world
off with a
class.
ring
Maybe
and
when it
Monday
comes
Night Raw.
back, you're going to bring that into wrestling.
What's that?
You're the champion. You're the leader of world class pro wrestling now. So maybe when it comes back with the big relaunch, October 3rd
I
in
could
Wichita,
really stick it to the man and like do something really rotten to the promoter. That's a great idea.
What? I was following you up until that.
Like Stone Cold and Vince were in the hospital. And remember?
You know what? If we wrote that out the right way, I would totally be down with that.
Yes, there you go.
Entertaining. But you're right, though. I mean, that's ultimately what wrestling is missing is a bona fide superstar, somebody that does spark that emotion out of fans. Wrestling is an emotional
and
the fan. It is.
Totally. And like I think the fight world's kind of got that. You know, you got like Conor, you got guys like Colby, and I think he actually it's a little more in MMA in terms of it's just people with those don't give a damn attitudes like that. You know, well, I mean Colby and Conor, I can't think of too many else, but they certainly
did a good job with that. In a sense, he's almost like watching a wrestler. You know, and he definitely, I think in that way, the entertainment value, he transcended MMA at that point. You know, whenever he had that fight with Mayweather, I mean, that was insane.
Yeah, all pro wrestling.
Yeah,
all pro wrestling.
Mayweather is a master of running his mouth too, and the whole build up of that fight. You know, like me personally, like I don't order MMA fights or anything like that. I ordered that boxing match to watch it, and I actually thought it was very well done. I thought. At one point in that fight, I'm thinking, oh my God, is he actually going to beat him? You know, the first rounds.
Yep. He did it on purpose, though. He got him out like 15 seconds before the under. So you could hit on the under bet, or the same round that he had to hit the under in. But he did it right in time, though. It was just beautifully done. And from the Pacquiao fight, he was, you know, a little upset that he got booed so heavily. So, you know, he's got a huge ego. You know, you don't like after a fight, you just win and you're up, on the ropes like this in your hometown, everyone's booing. That sticks with you, man. He wanted to say, okay, man, you know, I'll give these fans a little something this match. And I think he rope-a-doped them a little bit, but it made it more exciting, got people worried, and then, you know, got him out of there, and everyone loved it.
It worked.
It worked.
Entertainment 101.
Do you think Conor's going to beat Poirier in the rematch coming up?
You know, I didn't think he'd lose before. You know, he beat him pretty easy the first time, and then he got starched. So I don't know. I usually don't like, you know, if one guy comes out and beats someone dominantly like that, I don't like beating against him. It's one thing if it's like Conor was kicking his ass and then just got caught with a counter punch, you know, like one shot. But he got his ass beat, you know. I'm not going to bet against the guy who just beat the guy's ass, you know, the last fight, like solidly. Like, you know, he wasn't just one shot. He beat him. He beat him. He beat him up.
I really thought at one point, I was kind of shocked that Conor didn't transcend, like that he didn't transition into pro wrestling. I was kind of shocked. I wondered if that ever actually crossed his mind.
Yeah, I mean, he's still got enough. He's still in his prime, though, you know? So, yeah, I mean,
the night
is young. The night is young. Yeah.
They'll offer him enough money to do a WrestleMania one day.
Totally, yes. It'll be like Rousey, you know, come in there, like, go right to the WrestleMania main event, you know. His first match ever is the main event WrestleMania match. He walks 100 times. And, you know, he's an athlete. He'll do a good job like Stephanie and Ronda did. But, you know, that's the difference. Is that really pro wrestling? Or is just going around and working with whoever? Like, that's a real pro wrestler. See? Get what I'm saying, right?
Someone's bringing
I could train a monkey to walk a match 100 times.
That's true. But Tyson Fury did not have the best pro wrestling match. I don't know if you saw it. Someone's bringing that up.
No, I didn't. No,
it was him against Braun Strowman, and he's a great boxer, but that was like one of the worst matches I've ever seen.
But do you put that on him, or do you put it on the fact that maybe Braun Strowman wasn't the best person to be in there with him?
It
I don't
could
know,
be.
but how are you going to bump a guy who's 6'10", 300 pounds, who's never taken a bump? How do you know? I haven't seen it, but I could just imagine that looked awkward. Him, if he had Braun. Did Braun bump him around?
Not much.
Yeah.
It was
That's probably it.
Watched it.
You got to protect him. Heavyweight champ. You can't put him in any danger. He can't take any bumps. Yeah, so he couldn't have too good of a match.
He made a lot of money, though. I think he made like $13 million or something because it was in Saudi Arabia. So he was handsomely paid. But, is there anything you want to plug, Stephan, while we're on here before we wrap this up? We talked about your marijuana company.
Yeah, we got something. I don't know how much I could say, but we're gonna get a Bronco. The Ford's coming back with their Bronco, right? Those things are awesome, and we're gonna build it out, soup it up, drop a big ass engine in it, and wrap it in Hitiva. Go around to the SEMA show. The plan is to auction off for a charity, and I haven't signed anything solid yet, but my kid has autism, so autism charity. Stay tuned. Hitiva, Broncos, autism, here to help, baby. So
I heard too that Jenny Santana, Tito's daughter, who's also her real last name is Haas, she's been talking to you that you might wrestle around with her a bit in the ring because she's considering getting into pro wrestling.
Yeah, she wants to. I can't believe it. That's her father, and she wants to learn pro wrestling. What? I think he would have had her like Wichita's father as a baby, training her since birth. So she's looking to get into some pro wrestling. I guess she trained someplace here the other day with Kyle Hawk, Jerry. Trained with Kyle. So.
And she just won the nationals in BJJ, so she's an athlete.
I think honestly, coming from MMA or BJJ, it's an easier transition to pro wrestling.
That's what Stone Cold even said. Like, you know how to do it for real, then like all the chain wrestling and that stuff's kind of irrelevant. You just chain together what you normally do, and it looks all right. But definitely, I think it's cool to work in your style. And since the explosion of MMA, we've seen a lot more submission holds, and I think that's part of the reason why. Because MMA blew up, and head kicks and submission holds since 2005. Let's see that statistic in pro wrestling. The number of submissions and head kicks pre-05 to post-05.
I know you're a comedian,
because they concuss each other all the time.
The only reason I'm asking you this is because you're a comedian. Eugene wants to know, how do you get a gay man to sleep with a woman?
You got a punchline?
I can't believe as quick-witted as you are, you don't have anything for that.
I thought you were telling me a joke.
No, I was not. The fan was asking you. That's a legitimate question.
Ham? I don't know. Bribe? Prostitute him out?
Pat Patterson apparently used to do it. Pat Patterson was gay and he would sleep with women here and there. He said it in his book. So he just wanted to try it.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, and where can people follow you
thought,
on social media if people want to look you up? I know you have Twitter.
I may know. It's just I'm Stephan Bonnar on everything. ANAR. So I'm even on LinkedIn now. Stephan Bonnar on everything. Yeah, check it out. ANAR. But Facebook, all that commie spyware, CIA. Yeah.
The punchline for that question, someone says introduce him to Cyborg. It's not much of a transition.
Yeah, that wasn't bad.
Yeah. I wouldn't want to fight her.
But would you hook up with her?
Now you're on the spot.
She's not my type. And I'm taken.
Oh. That's right. I'm sure your wife doesn't watch it. You can tell us the truth.
It seems that they only ever hear the bad stuff on interviews.
Oh, I know. Like I made that joke on Matt Freeman's podcast. No one watches it about Baroni's the kind of best friend that you come home and catch him climbing out your window. And like, boom, like throws that back around and starts saying like, I banged Bonner's wife, which, you know, of course isn't close to true. Like, and then it gets back and I get in trouble. And, you know, like, why would he say that? Why would he say that? I don't know. He's an asshole. And then, of course, she looks it up. And, oh, it's because you on a podcast said, and I'm like, I can't believe that got back to her and I got busted for it. So it just goes to show you, you're on a podcast, you know, fucking Joe Blow's garage, 90 views. You say something about your wife, probably going to get back to her.
It's a fact. Well, I'll let you guys wrap it up. Nice talking to you again. I really appreciate it that you backed me up that day that I got into it with Haku, because there was no one else there that I would have confronted him with at Cauliflower Alley if I didn't have you behind me.
Man, you were a hard one to hold back too, bud.
Yeah. Hey, we got the most hits of anything at the Cauliflower Alley that year. It got over 100,000 views.
Yes.
Well, hold on. Before we get out of here, what is that story?
You'll have to watch the
got
video.
Into a fight at Cauliflower. Send him the link to that one.
Yeah.
And don't miss Phil Baroni versus John Gotti III coming to a $9.99 pay-per-view near you soon. And John Gotti III, right? This is old mob family beef from way back in the day. You know, Phil Baroni's dad worked with Gotti Sr., so there's a history there. It's a grudge match. Phil's a total piece of shit. I normally plug nothing for him, but if I'm plugging something that is promoting Phil getting his ass kicked, that's why I'm doing it, because I'm hoping to see Phil Baroni get his ass kicked by John Gotti III. You heard it from me.